Namaste. Welcome to the Sunday, February 13th Bansuri Bliss Members Lesson. I am Dr. Kerry Kriger, here to teach you Nagaswaravali raga. We're going to play a composition in Jhaptal that comes from Raghunath Seth, Pandit Raghunath Seth. And let me share my screen. Jhaptal, 10 beats. Din, na, din, din, na, tin, na, din, din, na, din. All right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 2 sets of 5. This composition starts on the Kali. All right, so we're starting halfway through the cycle. All right, so we could play the 5 beats, and then the tabla player would come in on some with the din on the low da. 1 line astai. All right, you could probably make up a manja, subsequent lines of the astai if you want, but there's only 1 line of the astai in the composition. Let's go ahead and do it. Now this is Madhyalaya Jhaptal, as most Jhaptals tend to be, from my experience. So I have this set at 92 beats per minute. Feel free to play it faster or slower. And I have my flute tuned, or my tambura tuned at F plus 12 cents, slightly sharp from a traditional F. I'm not sure that's the right word, the standard F. I'm 12 cents, 12% higher. 12% of the way to the next note, we'll say F plus 12. Here we go. Din, na, din, din, na, tin, na, din, din, na. Din. What's the difference between din and tin? There's no bass on the tin. Okay? 2 drums in the tabla. The daga, usually the left, is deep. Okay? Sorry, that was our sum. Alright, if you slap the drum, you're not going to get the bass. So on the Kali, you slap it. The tin. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, start. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Why did I play it over and over and over? I did throw in some occasional improvisations, but I play it over and over and over because that's what you should do. That's how you practice the gut. That's how you practice any line of music that you want to perfect, is you play it over and over and over and over. Okay? A lot more than that. if you want to play this so that you have it memorized, which you must have it memorized, then you must play it over and over and over and over. All right, so for me, the main difficulty is that this composition starts at Kali, and I've probably only ever learned one other Jhaptal composition that started at Kali. Almost all the Jhaptal compositions that I've ever been taught start at Sum, so I'm used to starting at Sum. So for me, I have to keep track of where I am when I improvise for certain. Okay? Where are you going to take your breath? I don't want to take my breath right after that very first saw. Even though that's where the space is, and there's space to take a breath there, it's just kind of choppy. It would be like if I started my sentence like I just did and I took a breath after the very first word of the sentence. We don't usually do that. When we start to talk, we talk, and eventually we take a breath. Okay? Same thing here. So sometimes just experiment with different places to breathe. If you need to breathe, you take a breath, and it doesn't matter where. Okay? But you don't always want to be taking your breath after the high saw or after that low da. Ideally, they're connected to the notes after them. Ideally, you're playing with gummicks, okay? I'm probably going to ornament that very first high saw from below. From pa, sa, or da sa. Pa sa, ga da sa pa. You could also do for the da, da sa da. It's whatever you want to do, but we're not here to focus on ornaments. If you don't play ornaments, if you've never learned ornaments, don't even worry about it for now, okay? But eventually, in general, you always want ornaments on most of your notes in Indian classical music. All right, there, I took a breath right before the final 3 beats of the line, because I want this line, I want to make sure I have air in my lungs, because this line brings us up to the high saw. Da sa ga ma pa da sa. I want it to connect. And when I hit that high saw, I used a morki, ga sa da sa. Morki on the high saw. Do I have to? No, that was just what happened to come out. Here's something else. I'm just giving you these little things that I noticed what I just did. Now, what I just did right now, probably going to be different than what I would do 5 minutes from now. But I'm just pointing out what I did. Maga sa. Okay, how do we get from the sa up to the ma? We could gummick it from above with a pa ma. Alright, but that's a big jump from the sa to a pa ma. I just use meaned to get back up to the ma, from the sa to the ma. What is meaned? Meaned is the connection between the notes. Make it smoothly connect between the notes. All right, I'm going to move on to the Antra. All right, the Antra has some offbeat. We've got onbeat and offbeat, okay? Or downbeat and upbeat, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are times when my hand is down, and there are times when my hand is up, okay? The downbeat, the upbeat, okay? Or the on and the off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and, okay? Ga, ma, pa, da. Okay, the das are coming on the offbeat. All right? Coming back to the saw on the onbeat, it's like if we drop a tennis ball, it's going to hit on the onbeat. It's going to bounce up, and when it's at the top, that's the offbeat. Okay? All right? Boom, boom. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 1. From Kali. what was that right there? That very last time, all I did was put in a high ga before the sum instead of a da. Okay, so down here, variations, right here. That time I tongued every note. 2. Okay? Staccato. The first time that I play it, I'm probably going to play it precisely as written in the composition. After that, I'm probably going to start varying the line slightly as I was doing. Okay? You have a 3 plus a 3 right here. Alright? So, you could start by experimenting with how can you change that. Instead of this being blank right here, you could put another pa. Pa, pa, da, da, sa. Okay? Or pa, ma, pa. Pa, ma, pa, da, da, sa. Or pa, 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 da, 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 sa. The saws. Instead of holding that saw, all 5, you could put a saw here. Put a saw here. Okay? Or saw, saw, saw. Or saw, 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 saw. Or any variation of saws that you want right there. Or you could fill in these 3 beats with whatever you want to do. 3 beats at double speed is going to be 6 total notes. Alright? Sa, da, pa, ma, ga, sa. Let's just do that. A descending scale at the end of the line to fill the last 3 beats. A 3-beat ton at the end of the line. The final 3 beats. Tuckadimmy, terakita, tuckadimmy. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 notes per beat. Sadapama, sadapama, sadapama. That was 5 beats. I varied the final 5 beats. 2 notes per beat. Okay? Alright. Let's continue on. So basically we've done 2 lines and lots of different ways to vary it. I will write out ways to vary this as the next part of this Jhaptal thing. I'll write out some variations. But ideally when I'm giving you these, they're probably coming at you too fast for you to fully remember them. Maybe you're writing out like that, but basically you should hopefully just be getting the idea of how I come up with variations, where you can put them, and the fact that you can vary pretty much anywhere that you can think of. It's up to you. You just always have to come back to the composition. Okay? Let's move on to the next line. So this next line is essentially, it's almost as if it's just one line here and not two lines, but that when we repeat the line the second time, we play it as a ton. Okay, you'll notice that it's almost exactly the same in the first half. Let's go ahead and do it. High notes, we're in the Antra. The Antra is the half of the composition that shows us the high notes, and almost always the end of the Antra, as it does right here, will bring us back to the composition. Notice how it connects perfectly into the composition. Or sorry, it's all the composition. It'll bring us back to the astai. One thing I did not mention, when you go from the astai into the Antra, or I'll say you don't have to go from the astai into the Antra. And I'll say even this astai, you probably should not go straight from this, because Gama Pa Da does not really bring us that smoothly into the Ga here. Anytime you go to the Antra, you can do that just from your improvising, okay? You're not playing the astai. Maybe you are. You could be. But you could just be improvising and the thought hits you, now I'm going to play the astai. Okay, then you start the astai. Sorry. Now I'm going to start the Antra. Okay, you're improvising. You have not yet played the Antra. The thought hits you, let's play the Antra, and you start the Antra. Okay, it doesn't have to come. It's not as if you must play this line and that the end of this line must go into the Antra. That's not how it is. Okay, start the Antra whenever you feel it's appropriate to start the Antra. And if you want to vary this line so that it goes smoothly into the Antra, then do that. Example. So I'm going to play the astai. I'm going to do something. I don't even know what, but I'm going to come into the Antra. All right, and it's not going to be straight from the astai as written. And when I come to the Antra, I'll probably improvise on that first line a little bit, and then I'm going to play these next two lines. So let's go back to the end of the Antra. to practice that line, play it over and over. But I think when you're playing the Antra, don't play the second line over and over, because the third line, as I said, is really just a variation of the second line. So it seems more appropriate to, oftentimes lines are played twice, okay? Meaning that really this is the second time playing it. So just play it as written and go to the third line and then do your improvisation. The first time that you play it exactly as written. You don't have to, okay? Because really this was probably just made up. Usually anytime there's a ton in a composition, you can make up your own ton. But it's good to play it as written at least the first time. And by the first time, does that mean return to the line? No, because this line is designed to bring us to the astai. But if you play the Antra a second time, then go ahead and make up your own ton right here, a 5-beat ton. I messed up there because I assumed it was taking me to some, because I had forgotten that the composition starts on Kali. If you were here the last couple weeks, remember Pradeep was talking about Vistars. That's what I was just playing, somewhat like a lop over top of the tabla. The tabla's going, and you have two choices on a Vistar. You can make it like you're playing a lop with no rhythm at all. When you're ready to come back to the composition, you listen for the tabla and come back. Or you can have a little bit of rhythm in there, okay? But it's still slower than the rest, okay? But you still have the pulse of the tabla. All right, now the last thing on this page that I have not taught is this right here, variation of the astai. And I wrote this out because this is how it sounds like Raghunath Seth plays it, at least in the recording that I've been listening to. I have two recordings, so I'll go listen to the other. Okay, if he does it in the other recording, especially at the very start when he first plays it, then I'll assume that this is probably maybe how he thinks of the line. So all this is instead of magasa, magasa, straight, magasa, magasa is how we have it written out right here, okay? But, okay, it's magasa, magasa is how I have it written out down here. We're extending the ma, okay? So it's like the ga is just a connector note to bring us into the sa. Do you have to do it both times? No. Okay? What if here you just did magasa straight? Okay? Like this. The first one you did magasa, and the second one you did magasa. let's reverse it. The first one we do magasa, and the second one we do magasa straight. Alright, question. How did I break Papa Maga of the last line? Okay, good question. How? Probably I should go ahead and write these in here. Hopefully people know, but then again, this is going into the beginners part of the Bansuri Bliss Academy, only because my original Nagaswaravali's lessons that I had in there were all intended for beginners. This obviously is not intended for beginners. Okay? But fingering wise, it's an easy raga. The fingers to play the notes, everything should. Okay? Which makes it easy in some respects. It's just that the composition itself is a bit tricky, and Jhaptal is a bit tricky. Okay, so how will we break? Whenever we have two notes in a row, we return to my video that's called How to Play Two Notes in a Row on the Bansuri. And in a ton, almost always, I'm going to be breaking the two notes that are the same using the note below. Slap the note below. Sa da sa. I'm going to use a da right here. Sa da sa da pa. So when I get to the pa, I'm going to use the note below, okay? I'm going to use my seventh hole, because that maintains the directionality of everything and that we're using the note below it. But what would you do if you don't have a seventh hole? Then you have a choice. Okay, pama pa maga, but then you have to change registers, okay? You're now going down to here. It's a lot of finger motion, but it's your choice and you should probably practice it. Let's try it. Any way you can think to do something, you should practice doing it, so that if you ever want to do it, or if it ever happens to come out, you've practiced it and it comes out correctly. That actually was the third way. Alright, so here's the third way. The third way is probably the way I would do it if I did not have a seventh hole. But you should be able to do it all the ways, is that I would come upwards and I go pada pa maga, because then I stay in the same register and it's less finger motion. But it's changing, it's altering the directionality of what we were doing before, because in the other ones we're using the note below, sa da sa da pa da ma pa maga maga sa. Okay, but now if we use the da to break the two pas, it's changing it up. It's fine. Sa da sa da pa da pa da pa da pa maga sa. So let's hear what that one sounds like. So I did it all three ways just now. Okay. So really I could add to, well, it wouldn't be an add, it would be just extra knowledge. How do you break two notes in a row when the two notes in a row are pa? Okay. I mean, it would be the same basic thing if you were at ma and you happen to always be using the note above. You'd have a choice when you come to ma. Am I gonna keep going from above? Because then I have to do lots of finger motion to get to pa. Or will I come from below? Ga. Or if you're like Vivek has a thumb hole to get a pa. Okay, now I personally don't know how a person could use their thumb fast enough, but maybe if they did it every day for 10 years, they'd be just as good on it as I can do a seventh hole. I don't know. But anyway, we always have our choices, and sometimes you have to. It's an instrument. To me, an instrument is we alter things on our instrument to make the music easier for us to produce. And we'll say maybe I could call it as an artifact of having an instrument. Whereas if you're a vocalist, theoretically, the music would just come out exactly how you want to, because it doesn't have to go through an instrument and get altered to fit the easy way, to remove the difficulties of the instrument. Okay, but we're on an instrument. We change things just to make things easier sometimes. All right, I think that's everything about this Nagaswaravali composition. The rest would be how do we improvise on it. I'll probably write some out, but let me I'll wait. Improvisations I'll just wait on, but we always have our choice. Wherever we can think to leave the composition, we leave the composition, and we just have to be aware of where are we going to return to the composition, and how many beats will it take to get us back there, and therefore how do I make up the improvisation. Unless sometimes I'll just leave the composition and I'll just be jamming, improvising, not thinking about when I'm going to return to it, and eventually when I'm ready to return, I return wherever. But if it's a short variation, such as a cycle or less, then I'm going to think about, I've left at this beat, I'm going to return at that beat, and ideally I will know in advance, or the second I start my improvisation, how many beats I need to cover to get where I'm going to go. All right, let me unshare this. All right, welcome back, everybody. Any questions about this composition? Otherwise, I'm probably going to stop this recording, or at least break it into a new section or something like that. Anyone, if you have a question about Nagaswaravali, send it in.